Imagine devouring your favorite packaged food, only to find out later that what you previously thought was nutritious has now been tainted with toxic heavy metals like mercury, lead, and arsenic. Well, our taste buds allow us to be picky eaters and not consume it again. We eventually end up not buying from such manufacturers. But are you aware of the population who don't have their taste palates developed yet? Infants, of course. Want to know why? Keep watching. As per a recent study, 95% of baby food has been tested positive for the presence of toxic heavy metals, higher than a safe limit. It can have more devastating and dangerous consequences than you can ever imagine. We know it is shocking, right? Wait till you find out that your baby's favorite food brand is also the one included in the list. In this video, we are going to expose the dark secret of the baby food industry. We bet, after watching this video, you will think twice before feeding any store-bought products to your baby. So, without any further ado, let's get started. You must be wondering if these companies have already failed the test. Why hasn't any lawsuit been filed yet? How are their products still generating billion-dollar revenues and sitting proudly on the shelves of retail stores? After gaining the trust of their loyal customers, of course. You see, these humongous corporations manufacturing infant consumptions spend hundreds of years gaining a loyal base of customers. Then what comes into play is foul marketing strategies. Food conglomerates deliberately want to replace premium raw products with cheaper ones without a price change to make those extra millions of bucks. Wondering what harm these cheap products do to our bodies? Well, the toxic metals appear as their byproducts. Do they do the same with adult food? They cannot, all thanks to our taste palates. Adults can immediately tell the change in the composition and taste of their trusted food, which they eventually stop purchasing. On the other hand, having partly conscious tiny beings as customers makes this process comparatively easy. Feeding toxicity diluted food to infants hardly invites any complaints. Neither do the babies know to identify the smell, nor can they spot the difference in taste. So the baby food manufacturers do not have a much active set of customer feedback. On 4th of February 2023, the latest reports came which were enough to shock the new parents or retail store owners in general. It claimed that several top food conglomerates are already tainted with charges of neglecting high percentages of inorganic lead, arsenic, mercury, and cadmium. The composition was enough to make these food items be categorized as dangerous for consumption. Since the headlines were pressed with such important revelations, it was set to garner widespread media attention. The baby food manufacturers were busted by the Congressional Subcommittee investigators who requested internal documents and screening test orders for these big names. Then, the levels of heavy metals were thoroughly analyzed among 7 of America's biggest food conglomerates. Be ready to be shocked, as we are now going to reveal the biggest names in the name list. The first one is Nurture's Happy Baby, Beechnut, Hain, Earth's Best Organic, and Nestle's Gerber. You will be even more surprised to know that the big sharks of retail like Walmart, Sprout Foods, and Campbell Soup Company did not even provide the demanded samples for review, despite numerous requests. Shocking, right? It even became more concerning when the health disregards relating to overconsumption of toxic metals were revealed. They can result in lower IQ, behavioral issues, impaired brain development, ADHD, and even autism. Yes, these metals take complete control of an infant's body and alter its genetic sequences to a great extent. How do these metals appear? Big sharks of the food conglomerate business would never put toxic metals like arsenic or lead purposefully into the food for the infants to consume, right? Come on, that would be against the lawsuits and humanity. But what does happen is, using cheaper alternatives like rice, rice flour, carrots, or corn, anything which grows under the ground automatically attracts these heavy metals into their composition. This is because the soil is already saturated with such inorganic metals. Let's give the benefit of the doubt to these companies again that they want to use cheaper alternatives like rice to make baby food available for every economic section of society. So are we saying that rice is the greatest cause for the metal incorporation into baby food? Probably yes. You see, most of these baby foods are loaded with rice as its main ingredient. Not gonna lie, 2022 was really hard on economic aspects. The price of almost every raw food skyrocketed due to inflation. including soybean, palm, oil, wheat, etc. The profit margin of food manufacturers is already slim, and inflation made it worse for them. Scaling up the packaged food prices wasn't the solution, as it could cause a company to earn over $1 billion one day, coming down to $500. The next day with a slight increase in prices. In this case, there was one hero the market couldn't touch: rice. So they could neglect the presence of some metal byproducts, right? Well, it seems this is what they do. How do they get past the screening test? For a giant brand, it is almost too easy to acquire their company from the FDA after throwing millions of bucks to their faces. This is why the biggies of the baby food companies like Gerber by Nestlé, Happy Baby, and Beechnut find it easy to get past the minute screening formalities. These companies have the biggest turnover as baby food brands, which benefits both the parent company as well as the FDA. So now you know why it is easy for baby food manufacturers to sell modern-day poisons and still sit proudly on the shelves of retail stores. Wait, isn't the FDA on the consumer side? Every big organization has a bigger organization looking after it. Sadly, in our case, it is the Food and Drug Administration wing that is charged with holding big companies accountable for the suspicious things they put into our food. When you hear about the FDA, it will automatically make you think that it's doing God's work by screening every minute ingredient of the food we consume. In fact, they would never let anything poisonous be swallowed down our throats, right? Well, here you will be wrong. It is shocking to know that the FDA, which is supposed to be working against the big companies for the betterment of the consumers, is actually on the big companies' side. FDA just decides what should be the precise amount of bad stuff a company can have in their products, or the toxins a food conglomerate can get away with. For example, they have set the limits for arsenic as 100 grams per billion, allowed in rice cereals. So, does this mean it is safe for the babies to digest that percentage of arsenic? Of course not. But this is what the FDA has tricked people into believing. Having a big company can also mean you can leverage or alter rules as per your wish. For example, Walmart was accused of putting excess limits on traces of metals in their baby food. They conveniently changed healthy arsenic intake to 4 times what it was originally. On this note, did you know that a big company has as much power as a small country? Yes, you heard it right. For instance, let's take a look at Danone. This market megagiant with $25 billion in revenue actually changed and broke rules in the past. It came up with a baby food line known as Happy Baby and struck out 3 laws which could have made baby food manufacturing rules stricter. I mean, why should there be strict laws monitoring the intake of babies, whose contribution to the country's economy is insignificant, right? Blinding the public. You know what they say? When there is an uproar among the consumers, the big companies have got to change to feed their pockets. This is exactly what happened in this case too. When it was noted that 95% of the companies have greater traces of heavy metals like cadmium, mercury, arsenic, and lead in their nutritional component, how could the FDA sit quietly? They had to convince the consumers that, don't worry, we are here to look after you. The FDA released a statement earlier this year that they would soon look after the toxic composition of baby food in big companies and try to reduce it as much as possible. Do you see what they did there? Neither did they mention any exact date or to what extent they are going to reduce the composition of such toxins. They simply blinded the consumers by giving them a false belief that actions are being taken. Isn't it crazy that even after attaining so much transparency from the government, nobody has ever exposed these dark aspects of the food chain industry? It becomes even more concerning when little infants, who have no idea what they are fed, are the ones suffering. If you like the video, give it a huge thumbs up and subscribe to our channel to be a part of the community. Don't forget to ring the bell icon to always stay updated with our uploads.